Hello, thank you for joining me on the Millennial Seeker's Heart. This is Evelyn, and
Hello.
she's going to be telling us her story today, so I hope you enjoy.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Evelyn. I am a single mom. My daughter is 9 years old. I've been living here in Vegas for 26 years, pretty much home now. And I lived in California before I moved here.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So, some of the things I generally ask, and one of the things is, did you have religion in your life growing up as a child? And if so, what was that?
I did. I remember from probably about 4 or 5 years old, one of my aunts, whom she's now passed away, she used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and we were left, my older sister and I, we were left in her care for about a year, maybe two. And so we started going to the Kingdom Hall with her, and that's all I knew growing up until I was probably 18 years old.
Okay, so the only religious background you had until you were an adult was Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
You weren't really exposed to anything else.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
And coming out of that religion, what did you know about Jesus at that point?
Well, so they do teach about Jesus. Their teachings are that there's God, Jehovah, Jesus Christ, his son, and then the Holy Spirit, different, unlike most of the other things that, we learn.
Okay. And so after that, what happened in your life that made you look into other things?
Well, then I moved here to Vegas, and I was raised in Barstow up until I graduated, so there was really not much going on there. And then I moved here. My mom and my older sister were already living here for about 2 years. So the lifestyle was different. I started working. I guess the independency, the wanting to see what I hadn't seen growing up. So then I noticed that I was going less and less to church and more to nightclubs, parties, something that I had never done when I was young.
How did you turn the tables and stop that habit of going out and partying? What brought you out of that?
So it's actually kind of funny that you asked that, because I was 26 years old. From like 19 to 26, it was every weekend. I still had my job. I was working at the hospital as a lab technician. So there were times that I would get maybe 1 or 2 hours of sleep, and then I had to go to work. But I was young, so, and then I realized that I didn't care for that life anymore. Like I'd done that, lived it, move on.
Okay. And then what brought you to having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and getting saved, baptized? What brought you to that?
So I was 28 years old when I became pregnant for the first time. And I was told I would never have kids. So it was a complete surprise. It was a miracle. And then, but I became very sick very early in my pregnancy. So I was considered high risk. And, but for some reason, it wasn't like, so I had HELLP syndrome, and it's where your liver starts rejecting the placenta. And so it starts intoxicating you and the baby. And that's what happened to me. And we caught it way too late. I was almost 8 months pregnant by the time we were both dying. We were both fighting for our lives. Unfortunately, she didn't make it. Actually, next month will be 15 years that she's been in heaven. And I was broken. And that's something that I never considered, or I never thought of myself to be that word until I fully surrendered, that I realized. And so one day, I must have been 8 months postpartum, and my sister, she invited me to a church, and she said there was gonna be a barbecue. Now, mind you, as a Jehovah's Witness, we didn't have that. Like, I didn't know what that was, to have that, barbecue at church. And
You didn't have like
gatherings together, no.
just fun parties and things together? You didn't do that? Okay.
I mean, if there was like a anniversary or wedding, because they don't celebrate birthdays or holidays, so that was really it. But so I went, thinking, oh, I'm going to a barbecue. And yes, there was a barbecue, but it was also, they were starting groups, and that was at Central Church. And I stayed, and it's been 15 years. This summer will be 15 years, and I've never left since. And I think that having to go through that loss, feeling like there's really no more purpose for me to live, continue to live, that brought me closer to God, an intimate relationship with God. And for the first time, I learned what it was to surrender. And I surrendered my life to God.
So if you were talking to a young lady who has experienced a loss of a baby, and they were excited to be a mom, and they went through pregnancy and then to lose that baby, what would be your advice to them? Because you've experienced that pain.
Yes. Well, it's actually because of that loss. Again, nobody in my family had ever endured such a pain or such an experience. I didn't know. I had never met anybody, or at least nobody that was open to actually talking about it. So it was like I was really alone, right? Again, God was not in my life at the time, or anybody of any kind of religion. So I was advised as soon as I got out of the hospital to look for support groups, which I did. I started going to a certain local support group, and it helped. It helped ease. But then I joined a foundation, an infant loss foundation, and through that I eventually became the director for the Spanish group. I met more families. I was in charge of when there was a loss especially at my hospital that I worked. I would go and meet these parents. I would do their fingerprints on the babies. I would take the pictures. So eventually, the next day when the baby's information would come to me, I had already met. So it was more intimate for me with these families. And I realized that there's really no advice. There's really no advice you can give except just let them know that you're there. It's the one thing we learn, because people will try and they'll say really kind things, but nothing, no matter how kind words they are, it doesn't soothe your pain. Now, 15 years later, I can say time does heal. I do believe that. I strongly believe time does heal, but it also takes your effort. Because there's sometimes, and I have met, where just parents can't get over it. And it's not to get over it, it's just moving forward. They can't, no matter how much support. But in my case, I had so much support. My family, my friends, and then again, this foundation that I was part of was a big, big support.
So for you, it brought about some healing.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I find that with so many things. I know when my dad died, people would say things, and some of it was frankly stupid, but I know that they meant well and they were trying, and people feel that need. They want to say something. They want to fix it. They want to make you feel better. But really, it just takes time. In our society, America, rush, 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 we have a really hard time with that. Loss of life takes time, and you're still going to miss them. But that grieving process, they give you 3 days off work, and that is ridiculous because it takes years.
Yes.
And even being a Christian, I knew my dad was at peace, and I knew that he loved me, and it was beautiful in the sense that I knew he was home now. He was at rest, he was at peace, and he was home. But it didn't take away that I couldn't give him a hug anymore. And like for you, there were all these hopes and dreams and expectations and a life that you had already planned that now wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think our culture has a very hard time with learning how to deal with people when that happens.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. It takes time, and time we don't want to give. And I think the best advice for all of us is sometimes pray for them,
Yes.
bring them a meal, give them a hug, show them you love them by doing. But sometimes we all need to just keep our mouth shut, because we can't bring that person back. We can't make that life they dreamed come back.
Absolutely. Yes. It was hard. And I can tell you, it was an experience, again, nobody in my family, thank God, has gone through. But because of that, I have met amazing people, friends that have become family because of it. Because, and this is just my opinion, obviously, but I believe that unless you've gone through something like that, you don't know what it is to actually feel that kind of pain. I believe I still have my mom and my dad, so I don't know what it is to lose a parent. I'm sure it's devastating, because obviously I love them, but I'm not there yet. But I have lost a child, and that's a community that not a lot of us would want to be there. Actually, nobody would want to be there, but unfortunately we are. And we can relate, we can help each other, we can listen to each other, or just be there, do like what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that at some point in time, every single person on this earth is going to experience loss. And it might be a death, it might be a divorce, it might be a great tragedy of whatever circumstance in their life. We can all be loving, we can all choose kindness, we can all do something for that person, but we can't fix it. And I think a lot of us, we want to fix it, we can't fix it, we can't make it better, but we can be there.
Yes.
And we can help, and we can be a friend. And don't we all just need a friend when those things happen? And you know, I think we have to get rid of, especially in Christian culture, of these platitudes. We've all said them, and we've all had them said, and it doesn't make it better. I know God loves me, but when you hurt, you hurt.
Yes, absolutely.
So, on that note, do you have a favorite Bible verse that just speaks to you, or that you just want to share?
Well, I do, and it's very meaningful to me.
You can read it.
Mainly because it was the first verse that I memorized as a kid, and it's Psalm 83:18, and it says, "Then they will learn that you alone are called the Lord, that you alone are the Most High, supreme over all the earth." Back then, the lady who used to teach me the Bible, I remember she picked it for me. She actually gave that verse to me and asked me to memorize it. And even with everything that I've gone through my whole life, for some reason, I've never forgotten. I can't remember any other verses, but that one speaks to my life mainly because of that. Because it's the first thing that showed to God that I cared enough to want to memorize something. Now I read the Bible every day. Not a day goes by that I don't open my Bible, that I don't teach my own daughter. But because it's very important for me, very important to live that lifestyle.
And is there anything else you'd like to share or talk about? I know you said you had some health struggles. Is that something?
Yes. Well, that's I think mainly after I lost my firstborn, it was it's called HELLP, HELLP syndrome, and I had a lot of things that went after that. For example, my liver, my kidneys shut down. I had high blood pressure, and eventually within time they would get better, or some got worse. And then 6 years later I had my daughter. Again, it was a complete surprise. I was not expecting, but she definitely brought that joy back, maybe, that I was missing. And then 6 months after I had her, 7 months, I started to get more sick. And if it wasn't for my older sister that pretty much made me go to the doctor, which it was kind of weird because, you know, I used to diagnose cancer. I used to work with doctors. It wasn't nothing new to me. I ended up being diagnosed with first stage colon cancer. Shortly after I don't know if that was a trigger or what happened, but eventually I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And out of all that, that's probably has been the hardest because one, there's no cure, and it's pain 24/7. Not a day goes by or a moment that goes by that I'm not in pain. After 8-9 years now, I think I've kind of learned to live with, and I sometimes don't even notice where the pain is, but it's constant pain, and that has affected my ability to be able to, you know, simple things like go play with my daughter outside in the bike or go to the pool with her, because extreme temperatures hurt me. It hurts. Or too much of certain exercise, it hurts. So, and she's a very energetic kid. Like she has way too much energy, even for myself. I mean, I'm 43 years old, you know. Most of my classmates or my friends, they have adult children. I'm a kid, you know, so she still needs a lot of me. I do share her with her dad and his wife and her older siblings, so they're a big help. I'm very thankful that they're part of her life, and so I'm beyond grateful for that. But she lives with me. She only goes every other weekend with her, so I'm the one that, you know, has to. Now, I do have amazing roommates that have a daughter who they are best friends. They love each other, and so they keep each other entertained for the most part. But it is.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you have any advice for anybody who's struggling with a chronic illness or a lot of chronic pain? Do you have any advice for them of how to push through that or cling on to God? Because I know a lot of people, when they go through those things, they can be very angry at God.
I can tell you, no, I've never been angry with God. If anything, I have friends that have expressed, I don't know, I really don't know what that means or how that feels, because with everything that I've gone through, because of the level of faith, I trust His purpose. I trust there's a reason, there's a purpose. I used to be very active. I used to volunteer all over the community, different foundations, events, whatever, military. I have volunteered for years. I still serve at my church. I try and keep myself as active, but I know that I have limitations, and I trust God for it all. I mean, it's not easy. It's not. I've had my moments, obviously. I try and stay busy because depression can, you know, kick in, and it's the enemy that tries to make me think crazy things. But I for the most part, I stay faithful. I have a 9-year-old. I don't have time to pity for myself. I don't. I have to wake up every morning and be there for her.
So you just go right back out.
That's right. She's the reason why I get up every morning. Now, because I've thought of it, you know, what if I didn't have her? You know, would it be the same? And I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm obviously, because I trust God's purpose, He knows what I needed, and I needed her. She's my reason for living. And because of that, I try to teach her something that I wasn't taught growing up. My mother, my sister were not of any religion back then, so it was just me. It was hard. With her, I want her to know that I back her up. You know, just even last year, I had to get her out of the school district because she was being bullied because of her faith, because she was open with her faith, because she would see kids that would fight, and instead of saying stop, she'd be like, God's watching you. And so they would laugh at her, and then she would feel bad, and then she didn't want to go to school anymore. And it was little things like that, and then eventually one thing led to another, and we are now in a Christian academy, which we absolutely love.
And what a blessing.
It is a blessing
because these things can be hard, and some people don't have those opportunities, but you know, this is a good thing
It's
when
been a
these things
sacrifice.
happen.
I won't lie. I have not been able to, for example, I don't have a car right now, so it's like her school's not cheap, but it's well worth being able to pay for that and to keep her learning about God, even if it's just through math, science, you know.
God worked it out.
Yes, always does. He always provides. Yes.
Amen. Well, thank you again. I am so glad you joined us on Millennial Seeker's Heart. I appreciate you watching this, and I hope it was helpful to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.